All right, racists, let's talk about the truth. There is so much discourse lately about who is native and who is indigenous, and even the nerve to bring up who is the architect of soul food. And what everyone needs to understand is that Black people are the earth. Black people are the only unmutated humanity. They told you humans came from Africa like it was a migration story. But that's not the truth. The truth is, Africa is the first face of the earth. And blackness is the source of all biology. Everyone else? Genetic drift, mutational echo, survival glitches adapted to ice and exile. Let's talk origins. The Black woman is the womb of the world. Forget the Eve in the garden story. That was a stolen metaphor. The real Eve lives in the woman's mitochondria. And not just any women. Melanin-rich, thick-hipped, thick-lipped, and copper-toned. Elegant, poised, literally perfect, planet-rooted Black women. White women don't carry the full ancestral genome. Asian, Mexican, and Native women only carry fragments. Black women carry the total code. She doesn't reproduce diversity. She births the whole species. When small African offshoot groups migrated north, they weren't evolving. They were mutating, adapting to survival, not thriving. That's where lighter skin, narrow nostrils, reduced melanin, and behavioral changes began. All signs of environmental stress, not superiority. You don't get white by evolving, you get white by forgetting the sun. And that forgetting is not advancement, it's progression. The white genome contains 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA. Let me repeat, they didn't just descend from humans. They were cavemen. Black people have 0 Neanderthal admixture. That's not a joke. That's biology. Black people are the originals. Non-Black people are the remix. The problem is, the remix decided to express its evil nature by attempting to erase the original track. Let's talk indigenous. The term indigenous was invented by settlers to decide who was native enough to be managed, named, and displaced. But indigenous is a political term, not a genetic one. And political terms can't overwrite blood memory. Being first on the continent does not make you first on the planet. However, Black people being first on the planet means they are first on every continent. The Black genome is Earth's source code. Everyone else is just running a copy of their biological operating system. The war against Black genetics is a war against humanity. Melanin isn't pigment, it's the processor. It's the molecule that translates solar energy into life. Plants have it, animals have it, humans need it. Black people have the highest concentration of it, which means Black people don't just live on Earth, they translate it. They are not just a race, they are the root species. Black isn't a color, it's the motherboard. Every other group, adaptations, mutations, and mistakes. This isn't supremacy. This is truth. Black people didn't come from Africa. Africa came from Black people.
Did you know that Black people only have 0.3% Neanderthal DNA? Every other race on the planet has 1 to 2%, and Black people have 0.3. So in reality, Black people are more human than any other race on this planet. These white supremacists going around saying that they're the peak human, no, sweetheart. Genetically, Black people are the superior humans.
You can understand why Black people have been demonized so much when you understand that Black people are literally the blueprint. The first humans to walk this earth were Black. Every other genotype and every other race came after that through genetic mutation. That is not downplaying the beauty of other races, but that is just saying that it is no coincidence that darker skin has been demonized for so long, because there was a fragility in identity with any other race, because the root of all races is Black.
Right.
But there is a special, do you want to explain the special about melanin and how it protects the cell, the DNA inside the nucleus? That's very important.
Part of the reason you can't do these experiments, where there's a lot of melanin around, the melanin actually in a lot of people, in Black people it's actually spread out through the skin. It spreads out through the cells and covers everything from the actions of the ultraviolet light.
There's no doubt in people with higher melanin, natural higher melanin, that it's far more likely that that melanin will be coating the nucleus, the cell wall of the nucleus of the DNA. Now the point about that is that ultraviolet light, which is often used to splice DNA, is blocked by that melanin. It absorbs it. It doesn't allow it in to interfere with the DNA. And it could well be, and this is Nigel's thesis, that this was a blocker for them when they were trying to genetically alter the species. And therefore, when maybe just out of random mutation something like an albino came along, they discovered, wow, we can get straight in.
Right.
And it may well be that the paler-skinned nation, people on the earth, have that pale skin because of this genetic experimentation to make things easier for them to work on human DNA. And in fact, Professor Steve Jones argues that this thing about vitamin D being, paler skin being there to allow vitamin D to be absorbed and so on, all these theories about why pale skin happened in the first place, he believes it's not an adequate explanation. There is no real explanation or justification for the need for pale skin at all.
Yeah, because I think if
dark skin is always an advantage in every circumstance.
Right, because most people would just automatically assume, well, they went to live in the north where there's less sun,
yes,
so therefore their skin changed colour. But that's not the case.
According to Professor Steve Jones, an eminent professor of biology, that is absolute nonsense.
Right. Okay.
There's just no reason at all for pale skin.
You would want to absorb more light, and I mean, why did we lose hair if we came to a colder climate, etc.
Yeah.
So obviously, something's wrong with that idea.
Right. All right. And Nigel contends that the white races, the northern European races, have probably had the most interference from this outside entity called the grey alien.
Yeah, and he doesn't say that. It's very important to say he doesn't say that from the point of view of a kind of reverse racism.
Right.
It's just he's letting us know that, right, that's there, you may need to do something about it,
right,
and maybe suggesting ways that we could do something about it. And if you look at the record of the European nations throughout history, in terms of colonialism, imperialism, and what the havoc they've wreaked on the world, it makes the point
that
really.
It's the blue-eyed white races that have got their finger on the nuclear. Well, I mean, what about China? Because he mentions the Chinese as well, doesn't he? He says that they've had significant intervention. Am I right there?
That's right. Yes, there's been interception all across the board. They found ways of doing it, but the most efficient way to do it is on cell nucleuses that aren't protected by the melanin shield.
Okay. Right.
That's just the most efficient, easiest way to do it.
Would you believe me if I told you Africans are the only purebred humans on this planet? No? Here's the geneticist.
And, I learned a bit about what's being known about the genome of Neanderthals, the genetic makeup of Neanderthals. The genome sequencers, led by Svante Pabo, who works in Germany, has taken tiny little fragments of Neanderthal bones, isolated DNA, and determined the genome of the Neanderthal, and used that information to determine, using genetic methods, how long ago Neanderthals and humans were a single species, where the common ancestor was. They've also been able to compare human genomes and ask the question of whether there's any evidence of Neanderthal genes in the human genome. And they've found that there is. And the amount is quite significant, upwards of 5 to 7%. Neanderthals used to live in the Neander Valley. You could have called it the Geneva Lake Basin, but that's where they lived. And out of Africa came the modern humans, and the word the geneticist uses, admixed. They admixed with the Neanderthals. And they all used to live in caves in those days like this. Came out of Africa, admixed with the Neanderthals. This was Neanderthal territory. There was another group of Neanderthal-like creatures called the Denisovans. They lived up here in Siberia, and they have their genome has been sequenced. They were distinct from the Neanderthals. And so you can find in people of European and Asian ancestry evidence of about 7%, 5 to 10% of your genome is common with that of Neanderthals. We've been separated from them for 30,000 years or so. And in some of the tribes in Papua New Guinea and those islands up there, there's evidence for a different kind of genome, which is probably the Denisovan genome. And they might have 7% Neanderthal and 5% Denisovan. So they might be 12 or 15% different from us. And in fact, the Africans who came out from Africa have no evidence of any Neanderthal genes in them, no evidence of that mixture. So they're the real pure humans.
Anybody else notice that you can be 100% black, but you could never be 100% white? When I say black, I just mean Homo sapien. I just mean human. Black people, African people, are the only people in the world, in the entire world, that are 100% Homo sapiens, never mixed with any Neanderthal blood. This is the reason why if I take a DNA test, or any other white person does, they are going to have a percentage of African in them. Now, if an Asian person or a Native American person takes a DNA test, it could just say 100% Asian, 100% Native American. But that's because DNA tests only go back a couple thousand years, which means two things. White people were black 2,000 years ago. We were African, and it wasn't that fucking long ago. And two, that means 2,000 years ago, there were Asian people. There were Native American people. We can prove that. But if you go back tens of thousands of years, if you go back even further, even they will have the common ancestor, which is the African. This is why I believe white supremacy is fucking stupid. You're proud of something that could never be 100% achieved. There's no such thing as a 100% pure blood European. Everybody was mixed with Neanderthal and Denisovan DNA, except for black people. African people are the only true humans in this world.
Wow. What an interesting piece of history right here. You know, this is time for you to be brag. This is the time for you to feel proud of yourself. We are the original Homo sapiens on the earth. And for long, these scientific proofs and evidence are beginning to make silly the whole idea of racism and the superiority of the whites. From the video we just watched, credit to the original content creators. It disproves everything otherwise, that every other race is a mutation from the blacks, and more predominantly that every origin of every tribe that is available on the earth has their roots from Africa. And so we are the original thing God made, original. And any attack on the black man or the Africans is like trying to terminate the core of humanity itself. This is the center of human evolution and discovery. Powerful subject. I don't know what your thoughts are and opinions, but I just want you to join us. These are interesting facts, and these are things that the black community needs to understand. African Americans need to hear this. Africans are like all over the world. Join in the conversation. Hit that subscription button, hit that notification button to support your brother as we see you in the next video that we're bringing along. So let us know what your thoughts, your opinions are in the comment section. See you on the next video.